everyone. My name is Justin Zielke, and I am a program manager for external relations at the College of Information at the University of Maryland.
Awesome. Wow, that is quite a
It's
title. I
it,
love it.
it's long.
So can you tell us about yourself and your professional background that got you into that?
Yeah, sure. I've spent about 20 years now in marketing and communications. I actually went to college for psychology. That was my major, and my minor was communications. So, how do you craft a message and send it to the right person at the right time? Over time, through a variety of different career trajectories, different communication roles in various organizations, and I can tell you a little bit more about what those are. I ended up at the University of Maryland, which I actually am an alumni. So I did my master's degree at the University of Maryland, the Smith School of Business, graduated in 2012, and now I work for the College of Information, which is a little bit different than the business school, but still under the University of Maryland umbrella.
Awesome. Thank you. So you're someone with a lot of both educational experiences and professional experiences. Where, through the lens of your current job, where do you feel like your education and your training directly apply to your current role?
I went to college at the University of San Diego, and my major was psychology. I was really interested in human behavior. Why do we do the things we do? How are we motivated? Incentive structures, the carrot and the stick, I guess you could say. That sort of has always been a thread throughout my career. I've always been very interested in people. My minor was communications. When I graduated from college, I was like, I want to put these two together. And so I interned in a communication role and then interned in a couple of different communication roles and then worked. My first role out of college was a nonprofit, the American Lung Association, doing fundraising. All of my roles have very much been people focused. How do we communicate or get information to people in a way that they will understand, and in many cases, prompt them to do something? We are fickle creatures and we are always taking in information, and there's a lot of messages being thrown at us at all times. And so, how do you create a message and get people to do things, which may sound weird, but that's a lot of what we're trying to do, whether it be in a nonprofit or at a university, trying to get them to enroll in the school or enroll in a class or partake in a program. So that interest in human behavior and working with people and focused on people in my role has been the thread.
Could you walk us through a typical day as well as you can when I'm sure there is no such thing as exactly a typical day?
That is true. Many people in marketing and communications will say that. We have typically very varied routines. There's a lot that falls under the umbrella of marketing communications. I think it's probably helpful to tell you a little bit more about the College of Information at University of Maryland, and that will help you better understand what my day might look like. The College of Information is the fastest growing college at the university. The University of Maryland has 12 schools or colleges. There's business, computer science, behavioral sciences, and then we're the College of Information. The college began in the 1960s, so it's a relatively new college. University of Maryland was started in 1856, so 1960 is definitely later in the history of the school. It actually began as library sciences. We still have a library science bent to our program, but when computers came around and the digital revolution, the school basically added in more information or data focused programs. So our students sit at the intersection of people, information, and technology. How does information and technology interact with the person? Sometimes we call it user experience, or it might be data and analytics. So the things that we're doing all day long on our phones or on our computers, that's information and technology. So our students, many of them in College of Information go on to become cybersecurity analysts, data scientists, information designers, web designers, and many of them will move up into senior executive positions like a chief information officer or a chief information security officer or even a chief technology officer. So it's a pretty wide program that covers a lot of different areas. My role is to try and get companies, nonprofits, community partners to want to work with us. So I do a lot of outreach, and that can be through email, it can be through social media. I participate in a lot of webinars, just listening to what the current stuff that's happening in information and technology. And then a lot of times after the webinar, I'll reach out to the host and say, hey, do you want to work with our college? Do you want to be able to have access to the students that are going to graduate soon, or maybe do some joint research? Or we even have a program called iConsultancy where a student team works with a real world organization and helps them to solve their problems. So a lot of those partners, we call them, are nonprofits. For example, it might be a nonprofit in Montgomery County that helps disadvantaged youth. We will help them to maybe redesign their website or look at all their data and determine who their audiences are, and a number of different other programs through this iConsultancy. Going back, I'm doing a lot of outreach. I'm trying to say, hey, come work with us. And so it keeps me really busy. I do a lot of emails. Like I said, I'm on a lot of webinars, do networking meetings, both digitally and in person, really just telling everybody about our college as a whole and seeing who might want to work with us or partner with us.
I would imagine in all of these initiatives, you're having to initiate a fair amount of new ideas or new procedures. And have you ever encountered resistance or pushback when you're implementing a new idea or process at work? And how did you address it?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we have a very small team. There's me, there's the director of our program, and then there's one other person. So there's only three of us. There's a lot of work to do and a lot to assemble when we're reaching out to these partners. If they do want to work with us, we've got to list out what our arrangement might be, create some kind of agreement, send that agreement over to them. And a lot of times, our partnerships involve other people within the college. So that could be the communications team, or it might be a number of faculty members. And so trying to get everybody to align and do what they're supposed to and live up to the obligations that they commit to can be very challenging. And as you can imagine, trying to get all these different people to move along towards a shared purpose can be really challenging. And throughout that, you get pushback of, why are we doing this? I don't understand this. I don't have the capacity. I'm too busy. I think one of the things to remember is resistance is not necessarily a bad thing. Everybody is trying to do their job. They may be just doing it in a different way. We're all trying to get our job done at the end of the day. Resistance is not necessarily a bad thing. It's a natural part of school and work and really life. You can't really shy away from it. You almost got to lean into it and just say, hey, I see we're pitted against each other. Let's come together. Let's see how we can do this together. I think when you can talk about the we instead of the you or I, it sets you up to succeed way more because you're a united front. You're working on this together versus me versus you. So I think many of us don't like conflict or resistance, but if you can start to get comfortable with it, to say this is a natural part of life, both in work and in school, I think you need to reframe the way you look at it. And that should help you as you progress both in your schooling and in your future career.
What is it that you think, do you find that interesting from the perspective of, I enjoy seeing how things are organized and executed? What do you think it is that you enjoy exactly?
I'm an observer. That's always been, I like to watch things happen. I don't need to necessarily be in the middle of everything or in the drama, I guess you could say. I like being on the sidelines and watching how people interact or how things go. So I think it would be neat to be able to be a fly on the wall to what's going on in the background. I think too often what we see we think is simple because it's, oh, this video was so well done. It must have been really easy to put together. But what we don't always see is what's behind the curtain, how much has to happen and be timed and move the moving parts go correctly together to come up with this thing that is beautiful or really interesting or creative. I think being able to see the back end of a production, I think it would make you realize just how much has to happen for this show or concert or whatever to be accomplished.
What of your passions or interests or strengths or values, which of those do you feel like comes up most for you at work? What advice do you have for folks broadly who are looking to identify and find a path to their passions as you clearly have?
And it's taken me a while. I think that's the thing to really note that I've had many different roles at different types of organizations. I've worked at a large nonprofit. I worked at a big health benefits company, like a Fortune 50 company. I worked at a small creative marketing agency. I worked at an association for cardiologists prior to this, and then now I'm at the University of Maryland. You go to college, you get a degree, or you go to technical school, you get some training, whatever your path may be. Maybe school is just not your thing, but part of it is you just got to feel it out. You got to say, what feels good? What do I want to do? You're going to have to work for many years. So why not make it something that you actually enjoy or uses your unique strengths? For me, it's taken many different steps along the way to really realize that I want a role that is people focused. I want to work with people, but I really want my role to be people focused, where the people are the end user. So in this particular case, I'm working for a college within a university. So ultimately, the students are the end user. But I'm also working with these companies and organizations, and they're an end user too. But I really like to work with people and have the people be the focus of my role. I've noticed that the further and further away I get from people, the less I start to care. Some people want to manage a big team. They don't want to do any of the ground level work. They just want to be up here and manage the team. That doesn't really work for me. I kind of want the direct hands-on part of my job, and I want to interact with different people. They're exhausting, but they also can be really fulfilling when you're working with someone and you get a shared goal and you can accomplish that goal. That's really fun to me. So I think my kind of wise words for y'all is just try everything out, see what sticks. Like you're not going to get it on your first try, your second try, or even probably your 10th try. I like to say that we have one big C, our career, but we got many little C's throughout. You graduate from college and you go take a job, that's a little C. Then you go to another job, that's a little C. But the big C is this overarching, what we call the career over time. You just got to test it out. You got to try different things, see what sticks. If you don't like it, note that down. And the next time, try and find something that you do and maybe avoid some of those things you don't.
Gosh, I think that's really, I appreciate both that you are somebody who has a lot of diverse experiences, you've done a lot of things, and I also appreciate that you are very transparent about how self-evaluative you have to be and how much you had to kind of identify your strengths and interests and values and everything along your journey. I just want to say a big thank you. I think other folks are really going to find this helpful, and just thank you so much for all of the above.
Of course. Thanks, David.